Alamannia or Alemannia was the territory inhabited by the Germanic Alemanni after they broke through the Roman lines in 213. The Alemanni expanded from the main basin during the 3rd century, raiding the Roman provinces and settling on the left bank of the Rhine from the 4th century. Ruled by independent tribal kings during the 4th to 5th centuries, Alemannia lost its independence and became a duchy of the Frankish Empire in the 6th century, and with the beginning formation of the Holy Roman Empire under Conrad I in 911 became the Duchy of Swabia. The term Swabia was often used interchangeably with Alemannia in the 10th to 13th centuries. The territory of Alemannia as it existed from the 7th to 9th centuries was centered on Lake Constance and included the High Rhine, the Black Forest and the Alsace on either side of the Upper Rhine, the Upper Danube basin as far as the confluence with the Lech, with an unclear boundary towards Burgundy to the southwest in the Aare basin. Rhaetia Curiensis, although not part of Alemannia, was ruled by Alemannic counts, and became part of the Duchy of Swabia as it was established by Burchard I. The territory corresponds to what was still the area of Alemannic German in the modern period, i.e., French Alsace, German Baden and Swabia, German-speaking Switzerland and Austrian Vorarlberg. Geography. The Alemanni were pushed south from their original area of settlement in the main basin and in the 5th and 6th century settled new territory on either side of the Rhine. Alemannia under Frankish rule, later the Duchy of Swabia within the Holy Roman Empire, covered a territory that was more or less undisputed during the 7th to 13th centuries. Organized into counties or pagi. In Swabia, Hegau, between Lake Constance, the Upper Danube and the Swabian Jura, Perrat-Altospara in the Upper Neckar basin, left of the Upper Danube as far as Ulm, including the source of the Danube, Neckargau, Swigasta, Filiwagor, Trickgau and Alba between the Neckar and the Danube, Juria between Ulm and Augsburg, Olbergau, Keltenstein and Augustergau along the Lech forming the border to Bavaria, Riesia in the northeastern corner, left of the Danube, Linzgau and Argungau north of Lake Constance, Erigau, Fulcher-Altospara, Ramagau and Illigau on the right side of the Danube, in Baden, Brissigau along the Upper Rhine opposite Sundgau, and Morchunova, the later Ortenau, along the Upper Rhine opposite Nordgau, Alpigau, centered on St. Blaise Abbey, Black Forest in modern France, Sundgau and Nordgau in modern Switzerland, Augustergau and Thurgau. The territory between Alemannia and Upper Burgundy was known as Aargau. The pertinence of this territory to either Alemannia or Upper Burgundy was disputed. The county of Rhaetia Curiensis was absorbed into Alemannia in the early 10th century. It comprised the Ringo and Rhaetia proper. History. Tribal kingdoms. Originally a loose confederation of unrelated tribes, the Alemanni underwent coalescence or ethnogenesis during the 3rd century, and were ruled by kings throughout the 4th and 5th centuries until 496, when they were defeated by Clovis I of the Franks at the Battle of Tolbiac. The Alemanni during the Roman Empire period were divided into a number of cantons or govia, each presided by a tribal king, but there appears to have been the custom of the individual kings uniting under the leadership of a single king in military expeditions. Some kings of the Alemanni of the 4th and 5th centuries are known by name, of the first being Crocus, a military leader who organized raids across the Limes during the 3rd century. Chnedomarius supported Constantius II in the rebellion of Magnentius. Chnedomarius was the leader of the Alemannic army in the Battle of Strasburg in 357. Macrian, Hariobode, Urius, Ursicinus, Vardomar, and Bestralp were Alemannic kings who in 359 made treaties with Julian the Apostate. Macrian was deposed in an expedition ordered by Valentinian I in 370. Macrian appears to have been involved in building a large alliance of Alemannic tribes against Rome, which earned him the title of Turbarim Rex Artifex. The Romans installed Fray Omar as a successor of Marcian, but the Buccinobentes would not accept him and he was expelled, and Macrian restored, and Valentinian made the Buccinobentes his foederati in the war against the Franks. Macrian was killed on campaign against the Franks, in an ambush laid by the Frankish king Mallobodus. Gibald is the last known king of the Alemanni. His raid on Passau is mentioned in the Vita of St. Louis. The name of Gibald's successor, who was defeated at Tolbiac, is not known. Merovingian Duchy. After their defeat in 496, the Alemanni bucked the Frankish yoke and put themselves under the protection of Theodoric the Great of the Ostrogoths. But after his death they were again subjugated by the Franks, under Theuderic I and Theodebatai. Thereafter, Alamannia was a nominal dukedom within Francia. Though ruled by their own dukes, it is not likely that they were very often united under one duke in the 6th and 7th centuries. The Alemanni most frequently appear as auxiliaries in expeditions to Italy. The Duchy of Alsace was Alemannic, but it was ruled by a line of Frankish dukes, and the region around the upper Danube and Neckar rivers was ruled by the Ahololfing family and not by the ducal house which ruled central Alemannia around Lake Constance. Rhaetia too, though Alemannic, was ruled by the Victorids coterminously with the Diocese of Chur. Alemannia was Christianized during the 7th century, although not as thoroughly as either Francia to its west or Bavaria to its east. The first Alemannic law code, Pactus Alamannorum, dates to this period. The Roman dioceses of Strasburg and Basel covered Alsace and that of Chur, as mentioned. Rhaetia. Alemannia itself only had a diocese in the east, at Augsburg. There were 2 Roman bishoprics, Windisch and Octodrium, which were moved early to other sites. Western Alemannia did eventually receive a diocese through the cooperation of the bishops of Chur and the Merovingian monarchs. The foundation of Constance is obscure, though it was the largest diocese in Germany throughout the Merovingian and early Carolingian era. The dioceses of Alemannia, including Chur, which had been a suffragan of the Archdiocese of Milan, were placed under the jurisdiction of the Archdiocese of Mainz by the Carolingians. After the death of Dagobert I in 638, Alemannia, like Bavaria, Aquitaine, and Brittany, broke its ties with its Frankish sovereigns and struggled for independence. This was largely successful until the early 8th century, when a series of campaigns waged by the Arnulfing mayors of the palace reduced Alemannia to a province of Francia once again. It was, however, during this period of de facto independence that the Alemanni began to be ruled by one duke, though Alsace and Rhaetia remained outside of the scope of Alemannia. Between 709 and 712, Pepin of Heristal fought against Lantfried, who appears as dux of the Alemanni, and who committed to writing the second Alemannic law code, the Lex Alamannorum. In 743, Pepin the Short and Carloman waged a campaign to reduce Alemannia, and in 746 Carloman began a final thrust to subdue the Alemannic nobility. Several thousand Alemanni noblemen were summarily arrested, tried, and executed for treason at a council at Cannstatt. Thereafter, Alemanni was ruled by Franks, and the only remaining native Alemannic nobility seems to have hailed from Alsace. Carolingian regnum. During the reign of Louis the Pious, there were tendencies to renewed independence in Alemannia, and the 830s were marked by bloody feuds between the Alemannic and Rhaetian nobility vying for dominion over the area. Following the Treaty of Verdun of 843, Alemannia became a province of East Francia, the Kingdom of Louis the German, the precursor of the Kingdom of Germany. It was called the Regnum in contemporary sources, though this does not necessarily mean that it was a kingdom or sub-kingdom. At times, however, it was granted to Charles the Bald in 829, though it is not certain whether he was recognized as duke or king. It was certainly a kingdom, including Alsace and Rhaetia, when it was granted to Charles the Fat in the division of East Francia in 876. Under Charles, Alamannia became the center of the empire, but after his deposition, it found itself out of favor. Though ethnically singular, it was still plagued by Rhaetian Alemannic feuds and fighting over the control of the Alemannic Church. Alemannia in the late 9th century, like Bavaria, Saxony, and Franconia, sought to unite itself under one duke, but it had considerably less success than either Saxony or Bavaria. Alamannia was one of the Jungas Stammesherzogtümer, one of the younger stem duchies, or Tebal duchies, which formed the basis of the political organization of East Francia after the collapse of the Carolingian dynasty in the late 9th and early 10th centuries. In the 10th century, no noble house of Alamannia succeeded in founding a ducal dynasty, as the Ottonians did in Saxony or the Leopolding in Bavaria, though the Hunfriedings came closest. The duchy encompassed the area surrounding Lake Constance, the Black Forest, and the left and right banks of the Rhine, including Alsace and parts of the Swiss plateau, bordering on Upper Burgundy. The boundary with Burgundy, fixed in 843, ran along the lower Aare, turning towards the south at the Rhine, passing west of Lucerne and across the Alps along the Upper Rhone to the St. Gotthard Pass. In the north, the boundary ran from the Murg to Heilbronn and the Nordlinger Rise. The eastern boundary was at the Lech. Argovia was disputed territory between the Dukes of Alamannia and Burgundy. From the 10th century onwards, Alamannia is more typically known as the Duchy of Swabia. Legacy. Alemannic German persists as a separate family of dialects within High German. The distribution of the Low Alemannic and High Alemannic subgroups largely correspond to the extent of historical Alemannia, while the highest Alemannic dialects spread beyond its limits during the High Middle Ages. The Brunigen-Apf line is a cultural boundary within High Alemannic which marks the division of Alemannia proper and the Argovia marches between Alemannia and Burgundy. The names for Germany in modern Arabic, Catalan, Welsh, Cornish, French, Persian, Portuguese, Spanish, and Turkish all derive from Alemannia. A similar correspondence exists for German, both as the language and the adjectival form of Germany. List of rulers. Kings. Known kings of Alemannia prior to AD 496. Crocus 306. Medric, Schneedomar 350, 357, Vestralp 357, 359, 357, 359, Agenerich 357, Suomar 357, 358, Horta 357, 359. Gundomade 354, Ursusan 357, 359, Macrian 368 to 371, Rando 368, Hariobode 4th century, Vadomavor 354 to 360, Vithacab 360 to 368, Prierius -378, Gibald c. 470. Merovingian Dukes Butilin 539 to 554. Lotharii before 552 to 554. Haming 539 to 554. Lantachar until 548. Magnachar 565. Vafer 573. Theodofried. Lutfred until 588. Ursula 588 to 607. Gunzo 613. Crodobert 630. Luthari 2 642. Gottfried until 709. Willihari 709 to 712. Lantfried 709 to 730. Thedbald 709 to 744.